Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful day. And thank you for taking the time out to be together today. So today's reading and verse for inspiration is taken from chapter 3 of the Essence of the Bhagavad Gita by Paramahans Yogananda, as commented by Swami Kriyananda. The verse is 10, and there are two verses together with it, but we'll focus on one today. Chapter 3, verse 10, Prajapati, God in the aspect of creator, brought mankind into manifestation, and in so doing, gave man the potential for self-offering into a higher awareness through yajna. Along with this gift, he enjoined mankind, whatever you desire, seek it by offering energy back to the source of all energy. Let this sacrifice be your milk cow of fulfillment. And Swamiji in his commentary talks about the power of Kriya Yoga being the real fire rite. So I thought I'll take up the concept, the principle of sacrifice in today's satsang. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that among all things in creation, he has bestowed mankind with the greatest gift, the potential for self-offering into an awareness greater than the human state. Now, how we look at the term human may differ. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm only human. And sometimes we may look at it as to be human is to be godlike. As we realize on the path that what you see is what becomes real for you. So perceive it, see it in whatever way you feel, but let that choice be one that takes you towards ever greater freedom and understanding and realization in God. But when we read that line, we wonder how many times and how often do we really recognize this great gift for its potential. We have many gifts on our list of things for this life, for the special days that we have, for the day, for the week, for the month. But the very potential that we are bestowed with of self-offering, that is the most sacred and the greatest gift we have. Our state of being, our state of being is our greatest gift. But we can translate it into something special only when we begin to accept, acknowledge, recognize, and lift that gift into its true potential. There is, everybody knows of this principle, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. What is sacrifice? What is self-offering? At different levels in thought, in energy, in action, but on this material plane, whatever thought we may have is strengthened in its nobility and in its power and strength when it is established on this matter plane through action. Without action, it can become philosophical, it can become empty, it can become almost to some degree worthless because we talk but it doesn't show. So in this understanding of sacrifice, I want to pick it up by this thread, by this high principle, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. Love being the heart of the offering. And what do you love? We are deluded by matter. It is our greatest delusion because the ego identifies with all things as its own, in possession of it, and does not understand its role as an instrument that it is only a channel for spirit to uplift that which it perceives into its higher state. And therefore, to remind, to recollect in our memory that all these various appearances are God in numerous forms. That in the people we love, in the service we love, in the job we love, in the cookie we love, in everything, in the fruit we love, can we draw into our awareness the power of God's sweetness, of God's love. And then again, how do you enjoy that experience? With all your heart. That all your likes, all our dislikes to be transmuted into one love. One love, one God. With all our soul, recognizing the soul as our true source of being, that individualized spark of God. All our mind, all our thoughts devoted, directed towards that one love, and all our strength, every ounce of our energy, every atom of our being, dowered with the goodness of God. This is the essence of concentration. In all that we do, we wonder, how do I concentrate? This is the principle. Love the Lord your God. Whatever you're doing, that's God and love. Habituated to this material plane, we forget often where the energy flows from, where the power of our senses flow from, and therefore Lord Krishna in further verses says that mankind strives to labor, and Yogananda ji uses a wonderful allegory. He uses the example of a mule burdened with a bag of gold. He says the gold is no use to the mule because of its ignorance, but yet it suffers under the weight of that gold. And he said mankind that is burdened with material consciousness is just like that mule. You labor and strive hard for years and get very little in return for all that labor. And you suffer and groan under the weight of that heavy labor, receiving nothing but suffering and worry in return. And Krishna says, the way out of that suffering is perform spiritual sacrifices, spiritual ceremonies. All those Vedic rituals, the fire ceremonies that we practice, the real inner rite, we all know, all of us here are Kriya Yogis. We all talk about and know that the inner fire rite is Kriya Yoga. But even those outer ceremonies, what is Krishna asking us to follow? He's saying, let every one of our actions also be a spiritual ceremony. A ceremony is not one that is confined to a date and time. Yes, there is the auspicious occasion of it, and the outward aspect of it is very important. But what is the heart of a ceremony? It's purity. The essence of a ceremony is in its purity. And therefore, to be able to invest every action with that purity. And again, what is the definition of purity? That pure love seeing only God. That's purity. And that is the striving of the Kriya Yogi. That in that striving, all that clay, as Master writes in his song, all that clay is transmuted into gold. The gold of peace, of bliss, of love, that is not troubled by the changing temperament of this world and of people around you and of circumstances around you. But this offering of sacrifice, purity. What is purity as we discuss? Keep the self aside. There are different, you can approach it from different angles. Keep the self aside. And we know what is pure and what is not pure. Sometimes we like to fool ourselves, we like to delude ourselves. In the last 1.5 weeks, I've been praying about a certain force of habit that is very interesting. And something that I noticed is that even in the, so you pray to God, God, at least make me aware when I am, channeling the wrong energy, at least make me aware. And the interesting thing is often I'm aware and I'm still doing it. That is that subconscious force of habit that even as much as you want to get out of it, that vortice, the power of that vortice in your spine, we cannot underestimate that power. It's interesting. Error keeps us humble. That doesn't mean be in error, but it keeps... But I found a certain power to it. It keeps you humble. But yes, we want to rise out of it. And the way to rise out of it is humility, because you realize you cannot do it by yourself. God has to do it through you. And if that force of habit and awareness is still taking you down the road, into that abyss, into that darkness, it's because we have not invited God enough into that practice. It's because we don't love God enough into our practice. It's because the ego is still holding sway. But there's the adventure too. It's been fun, it's been hilarious. It's a joy as we practice the principles, the techniques of the path. But the technique that we have been given, we've been hearing a lot about the state of the world and all that is happening around. We are in the midst of a great transition. Not something small, but one yuga is transitioning to the next yuga. That's a big transition that has called forth sacrifices from the masters, from the awakened sons of God themselves. The most powerful technique of salvation has been revived for this transition and for this age. Christ makes a special request to Babaji to send somebody who can take the divine science and art of Kriya Yoga to the West, because they see potential saints waiting to be awakened. And why potential saints waiting to be awakened? The world needs all the saints it can have at this moment. And we all need to be. Jyotishji announced a wonderful club, the Future Saints Club. And I think we should all be enthusiastic about joining that club. And he has given clear instructions about it. Have a journal, write down. Take an affirmation, take an idea, take a thought that you want to change. Practice it. And be sincere. Offer your sincerity. It is a channel through which purity flows. God watches the heart. If you're sincere, that's all that is needed. But this importance, as Lord Krishna says in this verse, no gift comes free. With this wonderful gift is enjoined on mankind. It is the spiritual responsibility of mankind that whatever desire we seek to fulfill can be done only by returning that energy back to its source. Seek to fulfill it by returning that energy back to its source. So let's come back to the principle of sacrifice again. What is it? Worship. How do we make an offering? How do we make a sacrifice? How do we worship? And Krishna, through this verse, is telling us, whatever we are doing, offer it with love and offer it to God. That is sacrifice. That is true worship. And we can do that from the moment we wake up, even in your sleep, as Master said. Invite me in your sleep. Why waste those hours? Master said, I go through every thought. When you sleep, I weed out the garden of your consciousness. Invite Master before you go to sleep. Invite him to weed out your garden. Master, there is that story of Swamiji. Master tells him, God will come to you at the end of your life, but don't think about it. Now why did Master tell him, don't think about it? What happens when you keep thinking about the results of something? You become attached. And in that very attachment, we drive God away. And he wanted to be a hermit. Master said, your job is writing, lecturing, editing. The lives of the masters are a great example of sacrifice. In doing what his guru asked him to do, his sacrifice brought him the fulfillment that his soul came to destined for in this incarnation. He found freedom, he found liberation. All that we are seeking, friends, make no mistake. But no matter how much we read, there is that aspect about time and space in this world. And at the same time, the power of purity is that all delusions drop. In its power, time and space cease to exist in that heart of purity. And that is its power. But Master, as Swamiji's life showed, if we can say, I will, I can, even if your heart is resisting, even if your mind is hesitating, if your body is not willing, your spirit is rebellious, if we can still say, I will, that's the first step to sacrifice. And then we may go back to sleep. Like Master said, there are people, if you call them in the morning, they'll say, yes, I'm getting up, and then he'll say they'll turn around and go back to sleep. But you have put out that first step. The next step is give it more energy. God, I've got to get up today morning. Okay, you whine and groan and you get up and you sit in bed and then you again go back to sleep. Well, that is more energy. And then you come to a point where you realize through experiences that I better get up and get out of bed, get going. I will, I can, and you do it. There's a book that Swamiji has written, Do It Now. It was called Do It Now, now it's Living Wisely, Living Well. But there is power. We want to understand, we want to make sense of things, we want to reason things out. But that's the road to nothing often. If that reasoning that is not constructive, it very quickly takes you into that maze of passivity, as that prayer said, egoic passivity, and pretty soon the door of opportunity closes. I remember at one time, I don't know if I've shared this story before. I remember in the early years when I just joined the path, it was a Thursday and we had just started satsangs. And I was going to work one morning, and sitting in the bus I was thinking, should I take prasad today, And the mind quickly kicked in and it says, no, there's so much prasad every day, every time, You don't need to add more to that flood. How the mind reasons, there's a river flowing, you don't need more water in that river. But something told me that's not right. But I kept talking to Master. I said, okay, Master, tell me very clearly before I get down from this bus, because once you get down from the bus and get involved in the day-to-day affairs in the office, you don't have time. So I told Master, before I get down from this bus, please guide me as to what I should do today evening. And throughout that journey, it was a 15-minute journey, and throughout the journey, I kept, reasoning and tussling with myself. And, the bus nears the office, and I still didn't have the answer. And I was like, oh, Master, I really need an answer. And as I was getting down the steps of the bus, the answer comes. All that I have given is mine. All that you have is mine. Give. Your offering is your offering. Somebody else's offering cannot complete it for you. It has to be one of yourself. That is the very foundation of creation, that God did not make this creation taking things from here and there. A portion of his own consciousness was given. And so in every offering, in every sacrifice, it must be a portion of your consciousness. It is the blood that redeems. And that is the highway. And every day, as we practice, as we prepare ourselves every day, every morning, one prayer that Swamiji used to say every morning, Lord, thy will, not my will. That's where it begins. You have to orient your mind and spirit that is caught in Maya. It's powerful. You give it the right direction, it will walk the path. But if the mule is already going in the wrong direction, no matter how many times you try to push it, it's not going to go back into the right direction sometimes, as Master said, and sometimes you have to let it stand. You have to take that burden, you have to carry that burden, that weight of being bound in time and space by the ego, of being enslaved. And then, but there's always hope, and that's what the Masters bring. Prayer, that awareness, no matter how many times it comes and slips from your awareness. If your heart is sincere, God will keep bringing it back. As I was experiencing in this time, it was not once that, okay, God brought it to my awareness, I didn't follow it, it was running through the back of my mind and I still went there. But because of sincerity, He keeps bringing it back. Each time He shows me the mirror and says, okay, watch where you're going. And that is the process of sacrifice. That against the grain of this matter-bound spirit, you must battle. And no matter how many times you're falling, to just lift yourself again. It's a sacrifice. It's an offering of the self that God embraces with love. And that's the redemption. That's the salvation. Each time, no matter how much your heart is sad, if you can just give it that keyword, rejoice. Be happy. Stay joyful. It may be crying inside, doesn't matter. Rejoice. Hold on to that word. They have spirit. Hold on to every straw you can find. That's the sacrifice. We've got to give it everything. Christ, He was in the temple teaching, and He observed many people putting into the treasury of the temple from the abundance of all they had. And then a poor lady comes. Now, we can't really call her poor. She was the richest among them all, but materially poor. She had 2 cents, and that was all she had. And she put that into the treasury. He observed it and called out to His disciples, all that I've given before her have given from their abundance. But she who had little has given all that she has. That is yajna. That is the fire, right? That you give everything. There is nothing to hold back. Because when you hold back, what is it that holds you back? It's the ego. What about me? So whatever little we are holding back, remember, just give it out. Just give it away. Give it back to God. It has come from Him. There is nothing we can call our own. Give it back to Him. And it's all yours, God. This body, this mind, this spirit, this soul, it's all yours. Use it as your channel. Use it as your instrument. And let your light shine. Let's take a few moments to look at some of the examples of sacrifice this prayer mentions. Using our will. That is the power with which we perform a sacrifice. Master said karma guides stars and destinies, but even greater is when karma is guided by your free will. That has greater power, greater than the stars and the destinies that we come with. So using our will to choose the right thought and action. Breaking the shameful cords of lethargy. Stepping fearlessly into freedom. How often fear holds us back? offer a sacrifice of that fear. Invite God to replace that fear in your heart. When your ego says, "Behold my glory, worship me," to straighten the spine, lift the energy from here to here, from all those areas where the energy is imprisoned, along the various energy centers, to resolutely do your practice of Kriya and offer that energy at the spiritual eye. And when that fire blazes at the spiritual eye, as Yogananda ji says, spiritual perceptions, the wisdom of God, His power, His love flows into us, and we feel that beautiful moment. When the little self impersonates God, I will listen rapturously to the wind-borne fragrant music of thine own matchless voice, whispering across the ages, I am He. Closing our eyes, let's tune into that whisper. It has been silently following us through the ages, and it is with us again, whispering, I am He. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.